Hello. Happy Wednesday. How's it going? You guys hear me okay? I unplugged my mic and plugged it back in. It looks like it's working. Didn't work at first, so trying to get it better. You know, watching videos of yourself, you're like, you criticize everything, and that's right now my current focus is I don't like the sound. So, especially because you can hear my machine slam down every time the presser foot comes down. Sorry about that. I wish my machine didn't do that. My old machine didn't do that. So how are you guys? You guys hanging in there? Oh, I have subtitles on. I love it, actually. Okay, so let's get this straight. So I'm finishing up the Sagebrush top that I turned into a dress. And this is pretty much how it's shaping up. I have completed the bodice. And now I'm going to be working on the skirt and the placket. I have inseam pockets, French seams, the ruffle, and I'm going to have to do something tricky to kind of clean finish the ruffle because I don't want to use my serger and I don't want to use a French seam there because that would be a little overkill. And of course I'm not going to line it. I don't have enough fabric to. I used all that fabric. So I'm going to do kind of a fake flat fell. So anyway. Hey, Mullen. Hey, Terry. How are you guys? So, I have like all this bias prepped. Like the amount of stuff I have prepped for this dress. Look at all this ruffle I have it ironed in half. Here's my placket. Look at all this narrow stuff I have. This is my placket, which is on the bias, and then I interfaced it. I don't typically prep all the pieces to this extent before a stream, but I wanted to finish today, and you don't need to see me iron this in half. This 4 or 5, I think it's like 5, maybe it's actually 6 yards, or maybe it's the binding that's 6 yards, and then I pieced all my binding together, like cutting it. This is a little scrap left over. See how uneven my pleats are? Those actually look pretty good, but I'm going to do the same thing. In fact, that's probably my first step. No, I'm going to do my pockets on my skirt first. So, I kept my ruffles. So, this is the other thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put the ruffle along the skirt in a seam, which means it's going to shorten my skirt a tiny bit. And I think that'll be okay. Worst case scenario, I'm adding something to the bottom, but you're on cloud 9. What do you mean you found Lysol spray? Oh, you mean like disinfectant? Were they out near you? You're cloud 9. I hope it's not from like breathing in Lysol. That's not what you're saying, right? Okay. So I cut off the hem of my skirt because this is where my ruffle's going to go. And then I kind of just pinned it here so I remembered which one went to where, so matching the plaids won't be, you know, as hard to figure out. But I'm actually going to do my side seams and my pockets first. Let's see. I'm going to take all these off. I did a bunch of prep yesterday. I'm sure I could figure it out. Plus the ruffle, thankfully, kind of interrupts the plaid matching. I feel like it could be a little better on my bodice. Oh, I can pull my bodice off and show you guys. I tried it on. It all fits great. Oh, it's been out forever since. Dang, really? Jeez. Well, I'm glad everyone's staying disinfected then. Okay, here's my back, fronts, pockets. All right. Last time we did these, I completely forgot to. Now the skirt looks really weird to me because it's so short. It's like so short. That's because I cut off like 6 inches or 5 inches off the hem. So last time we did these, I forgot to make my first seam finished. So we're going to do that this time. Now all my pockets, but one, are the same plaid spot. It's the best I could do. I was really close on fabric. I bought so much of this fabric. Remember, I was feeling pretty like, well, I'm swimming in fabric. It's a good thing I had that much, because between matching the plaids and doing this much ruffle, it really has eaten into my fabric amount. And I'm basically, all I have are pieces like this, long pieces that are straight of this plaid fabric. So, all right, so I'm going to do a little French seam here. I feel a little bit rusty about this, but so first I'm going to put a French seam to attach my pocket. I'm trying to decide that. I'm just going to do 1/4 inch. Let's do the other one. I have notches here to line up. I just got to remember where that is for the pocket opening, so I'm going to put a pin here. Just going to put a pin, or actually I'm just going to measure that. It's about 1 inch, so now I know my pocket opening starts 1 inch down. My notches go into this first seam I'm sewing, but that's okay. I'm going to trim this down just this little bit here. These are kind of tiny scissors to do that with. Let's try these. I just sharpened these, so let's see how they do. Not bad, not bad. All right. Oh, and on Instagram, I put out my weekly schedule and an October schedule. I know it's been a while since I've done that. And after today, we're going to be doing all hearts all the time. I have 3 projects for them, and I just thought it might be a really nice way to kind of pay homage to them, to do 3 of their sponsored streams in a row. I hope that works out for them. I'm going to do my other skirts now too, so that I can iron them all at the same time. All right, so I just need to make sure, because this fabric is really, it's actually impossible to tell the right side from the wrong side, so I just need to make sure I have a left and a right. You know, that way I don't have 2 left skirts. Who would do something like that? Not me, right? I had this huge win this week. Okay, so I've been working really hard on videos and struggling with which platform to use, because I just recently learned that Vimeo doesn't have subtitles, and I'm really surprised no one's mentioned this of the videos, but maybe people weren't looking for that, or they just didn't think like it was something they should have, and even if they wanted it. I just thought it was naturally a part of it, and then I found out, you know, of course YouTube has it, right? And then I found out, like, I wanted timestamps. That's why I was going to use Vimeo. That's what I always use, and chapters and bookmarks and things. Well, I just figured out I can do that to any of my YouTube videos. Like, I can even do it to this one, and it's so easy, and I feel so excited about this. So I'm going to go back to some videos and start adding some timestamps. That way, you can just skip to the part you want. When you hover over the bar, like on any video, just so you guys know how to do this. Hey, Derek. Dark and chilly. Ooh. That sounds spooky. All right, let's go to the iron here. So if you're watching a video and the video appears to have timestamps, the way you can tell is if you hover your mouse. I'm not sure how this works on a mobile device, so I have to look into this still. But if you hover your mouse, this camera's always backwards, so I'm always kind of fighting to figure out where to put it. If you hover your mouse over the time bar at the bottom of the screen, if it's kind of chunked up a little bit, what am I doing here? Why does this look funny to me? If you see like little segmented time bar, you know, like little chunks in that red line going across the bottom of your screen, down here. Ooh, look at that, I can point to it. There, and if you hover over it, there will be a title and it'll tell you, oh, what that little time chunk is. So you can just skip to it. It also should be written in the description of the video. And I just learned how to do that and it's super easy. So, yeah, if you guys have a video, you're like, oh, there's timestamps on this. That's how you do it. Hi, Una. Welcome, welcome. Oh, I know. This fabric is pretty cool. Hi, Sydney. I'm pretty excited about this fabric. It's kind of scratchy when I put it on, you know, like a true linen is. Thank goodness I pre-washed it, right? I wonder, it doesn't seem like this right here is the unironed version. I ironed the selvage, you know, kind of the bits to make it easier to cut out. So in all honesty, it didn't wrinkle too badly. Now, that's probably because it was a huge piece of fabric when I went to sew it and cut it out and wash it. So that typically doesn't wrinkle as badly. Where did my skirt go? Oh, here it is. I thought I had them on. It's kind of like how shrinkage is. Shrinkage is less on a big piece of fabric. So if you really want to make sure you get all the shrinkage out of something, you should wash it a few times. I do this especially for things that are going to be fitted, you know, because they're less forgiving. You know, we always did shrink tests on pieces that were a minimum 20 by 20. Like the box we would draw on the fabric would be a 20 by 20 inch square. And it would be drawn on a piece of fabric. We wouldn't cut the fabric that size and measure it. That's a little harder for accuracy. But it's the same idea. You need kind of a big thing. It reminds me of knitting a swatch as a knitter. I know so many knitters, and I'm not trying to like shout at you for this, but that do the smallest swatch ever. And then they wonder why their sweater still didn't fit. Well, that's because the swatch probably wasn't as accurate as it could have been. All right. So I'm just putting a little French seam here. Hi, Melinda. Welcome back. How's it going? Finishing up this dress today. I love seeing it on my dress form. And then I kind of just like threw it on over my dress the other day. And then I was like, oh, I'm trying this on. It's all pinned on in those pictures, you know. It looks like it's sewn, but it's not. Just the bodice was finished. This fabric is so satisfying to iron. You know, it just does it. It's been fun. My daughter got her first job. I think I told you guys this. And she has to wear a white button-down shirt. And so it pretty much is always a shirt that requires ironing. And so she's been learning how to iron things better. She knows how to iron, but you know what I mean? Like the strategies with sleeves and things like that. And her sleeves are so small, like the diameter is so close fitting, and she's pretty small. So my iron is basically the width of her sleeve. It's so hard to get it in there. Ooh, oh cool, Melinda. I love your bat quilt that you're gonna do. I gotta get on that. I forgot there's like deadlines for like posting your idea. I hadn't even posted that I'm in the swap. So I gotta do that too. I don't know why I don't share that kind of stuff. I think it's funny that I don't share as much personal sewing stuff. You know? All right, so now we have our French seam there. That looks pretty nice. Mainly because I feel like no one is interested in that. Howdy, Leia. How's it going? Strategic iron. Yeah, right? I mean, isn't all ironing kind of strategic? You gotta like plan your route, you know? I'm just going to clip this a little bit under there. All right. Let's do all these at once. Okay. I think, you know, it's like, I'm not in a hurry right now, but I definitely am excited about sewing aspects of this, so I'm like trying to get to them, you know? So I'm just kind of like lumping all the fabric together after I sew something. Whereas normally I'm not a neat and tidy person, but I will do something like this, you know, I'll like kind of fold it up like this and set it aside because it actually makes it faster in the long run to, you know, keep going when you're not trying to find where you left off, you know, so. Oh, right. Yeah, Melinda, exactly. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of folks that are interested in what I'm doing, they're just interested in like, what can you do to help me, lady? You know what I mean? They don't really want to see my sewing journey, you know? They would much rather me just post things that are helpful. And I try to stay true to that because I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? And so, like, I sew things for my house occasionally. You know, we just got a new house, so it's like things are shifting around a little bit. And I'm really just trying to use things I already have. I'm not a very, I don't know, I don't just go out and rebuy everything. I just feel like we've moved enough that I'm like, ugh, I have to find this thing again, you know? So I make it. But, like, one of the things I'm going to make soon is a portable kitty litter box. And I was just going to do that. And I was like, you know, this actually might end up being kind of a cool project. And I'm like, does anyone really care about a portable litter box? I want this for when we evacuate for like when there's wildfires, because it'll be so handy to have something that I can zip up, you know? So it's just a thing I want to try. You did, Leah, right? Yeah. I literally have one of the songs stuck in my head. I'm stuck on one of those levels of that Cuphead game. But isn't it so, like, it's so hard but so cute. Yeah, and I saw someone post the funniest description when I was trying to decide whether to buy that game. So here's a weird quirk about me. Hi, Mina. How's it going? Oh, nice. I'm glad. That's the Fairfield. Yeah, that's a great pattern. My husband loves the ones I made for him. So the funny thing about me with games is what I have learned about myself is I'm a completionist. It's the same in everything in my life. I finish things. I finish tasks. It's something great, I think, like in a one way, but at the other way, it can kind of plague me. Like some people are OCD. I'm a finisher. I'm very task oriented. So what happens to me in certain games is I have to figure out what is going to feel complete to me for a game. Is it getting all the trophies? Is it finishing the story? Is it leveling something up? And I have to figure this out before I buy it now. Otherwise, it kind of drives me a little bit crazy. So I was looking up that game like, okay, this isn't a story mode game. It is like, it's like platformer, you know, and so I was looking up the trophies and I saw someone post the most hilarious description of this game. It was really long and really funny and very satirical, and they were just like, you know, like you'll die 1 second away from beating the boss and you'll have to start over again. These levels are like 2 minutes long. They're really short, but I've literally spent 6 hours on one level so far because I can't get past it. And they're like, you'll divorce your husband, you'll forget you have kids, you won't feed the pets, you know? And I was like, oh, and the whole thing was so melodramatic and funny. I thought, and then it made me buy the game because I was like, oh shoot, this is so good. Yeah, see, I would never even consider Animal Crossing. First, there's too much chatter in that game. But yeah, exactly. Like, what would make you feel done in that game? All right, so I'm doing French seams here. So the first one I'm going to do feels pretty wrong because I'm actually going to go into my seam here. I kind of wish I would have just popped over and ironed this back up. And maybe I will. Ensure success, right? Hello, Siobhan. How's it going? Welcome. I'm glad you could join live as well. All right, I'm gonna pop over to the iron. Yeah, I'm into this pattern. Okay, I have this, like, I gotta move this thing. It's treacherous. I'm gonna trip and fall. And I need to move my Beatrice. No falling. All right. I'm just gonna iron these pockets. I'm not usually this fastidious about my ironing. But with the French seam pockets, it'll make it a little easier. They can be a little bit awkward, you know. I love seeing how you guys get here. I got the kindest, I've gotten 2 extremely kind comments lately. One on YouTube, someone just said, you know, I've been sewing a long time and these are the best instructions I have ever seen for this. And I think it might have been the Ginger Jeans zipper fly, and that made me feel so good. I was having kind of one of those self-doubt days, like, why am I doing this? Where's my other skirt? There it is. And then someone posted the same sort of comment on Instagram too. Oh, really, Leia? Nice. What kind of fabric are you going to do? That's awesome. Live is so fun. In fact, that's going to be the topic. So Sew Over 50 is letting me do a guest post on their Instagram feed next week. And I said, well, how about any of these topics? You guys can pick. And I gave them like 6 topics or something. And she was like, oh, okay. I don't really know how it works. I didn't know what to do. I need to move this cord. My cords are just warm enough that if they touch my monitor, they start doing things. They start selecting things. And I can't figure out why my screen will be like doing something weird, like kind of flickering, and it's because the cord is almost pressing a button on the screen. Like, I don't know. All right, so let's see, where did I start that? Was that right here? Yeah. Yeah, so that was one of the things I said. I said, well, you know, I could talk about why live streams are fun and like what is in it for you. You know, is it that you're kind of craving sewing company? Is it that you want instruction? You know. Oh, that's good. I want my seam to be just stacked right on top of the other. There. So 3 of my pockets are going to line up plaid-wise. I like to say that I really looked to plan that out, but honestly, I just lucked out. The scraps I had all worked, except for one. So. Oh, cool. Oh, that'll be cute. I think the Sagebrush top as is really cute. Are you going to keep the big puffy sleeves and all that? It's pretty cute. I'm holding my skirt up here. All right. Stacking my seams. I'm gonna go just past that seam. No, I'm not gonna go just past that seam. I'm gonna go back a little bit. I was thinking of it as my last seam, but it's not. Get rid of that. These few stitches here. I want to pivot sooner. There we go. Okay. So my side seams should also, for the most part, the plaid match, you know. Oh, fun, Malin. Oh yeah, you love puffy sleeves. That's great. I love it. Really, Allison? That's cool. Right? Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that is, kind of helpful. I mean, it's why I came to streaming, through gaming, because being an older or newer gamer, I really needed some help. And I just love being able to ask, how'd you do that? Where'd you find that? And, some streamers are really kind, because I could be like, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Like PvP. I didn't know all these terms. And sometimes people aren't nice, But a lot of streamers were really nice and just explained things to me. And I was like, oh, okay. That's what that is. I don't understand anyone making fun of anyone for not knowing something. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't born knowing, all this stuff. Like, everybody's learned it. So if you're going to make fun of somebody, like, it's kind of gross, But, that's just how it is sometimes. That's why you'll never see me type the word LMAO, because I find it to be a little bit, most of the time when it's used, it's kind of mean. Like, they'll use it to, like, they're using it as if they're laughing with you, but they're laughing at you, Isn't he right? Oh, yeah. I've kind of passed my daughter on stuff like that. Like, certain things, yes, she's gonna know, like, because I'll say, what's the site? Why are these people talking about this? But as far as, like, a lot of the other stuff, like filling out a form, like she had to fill out a form for work, and just learning how to do that kind of stuff, Or why certain, like, programs work better than others. I'm trying to match my plaids here. So matching my plaids on this first pass will help on the second one, but the second pass is more crucial. Yeah, you're not the first to say that. I remember feeling, anytime someone makes me feel embarrassed about something, I'm one of those people that I embrace it hardcore, because I'm just like, it's a tool, and that did happen a little bit, when I was young in my sewing. People would be like, oh, I never use the seam ripper. It was that kind of passive aggressive thing. And I'm like, why? Seam ripper's great. And I just didn't like that attitude. Anytime I don't like the attitude or it makes me feel bad, I'm like, well, if it's making me feel bad, I don't like that. I don't want to feel bad. So it's not like I'm doing something wrong. So, yeah. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What would we do without the seam ripper? What's his name? Miller. Whoever the guy Miller who invented it. That's why we sometimes say it's Miller time, because, someone named Miller invented it. Okay, skirt. Come on, stay on the table. I'm just going to trim down this seam. Try not to screw up anything else. You will see, like, sometimes when I'm doing French seams, especially around the pocket or the skirt, I kind of don't follow the seam allowances as closely as I could. It's partly just because I'm looking for a certain effect of my French seam, and I kind of stick to what's easiest and most comfortable for me to do. I'll be honest, every time I do French seam inseam pockets, I think I'm going to do them wrong. Every single time. Even today, I'm like, do I know how to do this? Every time. And then when I do it, I'm secretly like, oh, I did it right again. I'm serious, like, every single time. Like, I was just thinking earlier in the stream, I'm like, oh, if I do this good, I could actually clip this and use it as a a quick how-to. And then I was like, who am I fooling? I don't remember how to do this. So like this seam allowance isn't going to make or break my dress. If I'm off 1/8 of an inch, I can kind of navigate that, especially since there's gathers in the waist going to the bodice. So, hi, Alicia. Yeah, I've been using French seams a lot now. I really love, like, look at my bodice. Look at how nice the inside of my bodice looks. Like, even I am like, oh, that looks pretty darn good. You know, between the French seams and the yoke being clean finished, the binding at the neck, it's practically reversible, you know? I just like the way that looks. I love the way French seams feel. Hey, Penny, how's it going? You know? Yeah, exactly, Sydney. And I understand that. Like, I understand editing that stuff out because people really want a nice and tidy video. I get it. I do too. Honestly, I do too. That is not the place for, you can't do that in a live stream, obviously, But at the same time, like, I do it in some of my uploaded videos, mainly because, like, my bobbin will run out. I don't not show my mistakes if I make one, unless it's time consuming. Like, the other day, I couldn't remember. I couldn't get my corner. I didn't get my corner to match up on one of the bins in the video, and I was like, and you can see in my face, I was like, as I approached the corner, I was kind of like, how dare this not match up? This always matches up. Like, my ego really got in the way there. And then it was fine. But because my facial expression did that, I was like, oh, crap, I got to edit that out. And then I even second guessed it, and I started ripping it apart before I got to it, and it ended up being fine. But I edited that stuff out, when it's an uploaded video. You would have seen that live, like, I can actually tell in some uploaded videos that they've made a mistake and that they edited it. And I don't think anything less of them. I'm just like, oh, shoot, I see what just happened there. We do things. That's just how it is. You're focused on so many things when you're recording a video. I promise when I do this off camera, it's not as awkward, but doing it under the camera is always kind of tricky. Plus, on my sewing machine table. Plus, I don't want to cut my dress on live camera. We don't do that around here. Oh man. All right, so let's iron these. I did both, right? Yeah. Let's iron these. Where's my mouse? There we go. Tried to get all clever with my microphone to make it better. It ended up making it, like, the sound got better, but everything else got worse. So back to putting it on my majiggy. All right. I think I could do French seam pockets better. Maybe I should look up a tutorial. I love French seams. I went, before I started live streaming, I used a combination of my serger mostly and not finishing my seams because I kind of like that as well. I knew I couldn't get away with doing that all the time in a video series because I don't do it because I think it's better. I do it because I prefer it, and I didn't really want to be like edgy like that. It's just something I like. So sometimes I leave my edges raw and I top stitch my seams instead. It's just something I like. I like how lightweight it is. I don't have any bases other than that. It's just something, and it's faster. And I like top stitching. You know what I mean? So it just kind of satisfies those kinds of things. Kind of hard to get your edge on these curves, so. So I started using French seams a lot because I also figure not everybody has a serger. Not everybody wants to use a serger. So that's why I started doing French seams so much, and I've kind of really gotten hooked on them. They're just my favorite way now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Sydney. Now that I have these this like ability to do chapters and timestamps, I think that will help people find helpful moments in streams without having to deal with my chatter. And then maybe I won't get those comments like, you talk too much, you know, and it's like, it's a live stream. I don't know what else to do. You want me to hum? Maybe then they'll just find what they need and move away. Hopefully give me $1, you know, for my trouble. I don't mind helping rude people. As long as they go away. Like, you're welcome for the free help. See ya. Alright. We need to clean up all these little threads here. I hope I get my plaids to match pretty good on this pocket. I'm surprised how much fullness my little A-line actually added. When I tried it on, I was kind of like, oh, I didn't think I'd added very much. But it is kind of surprising when you measure, so say you have a skirt on a dress that's gathered, and it's a dress you make all the time, and you're like, you know, I just want something that looks a little different this time. Like, how can I make this look different, right? Well, you could make it A-line, right? And it's kind of surprising if you measure the hem of your gathered skirt and then maybe create an A-line that's still as full as that, how little it really needs to be, you know? I've done that before. This is kind of warm from the wool felt here. It really holds heat nicely, and it's helping me kind of get this on the curve. It's kind of nice. The linen's probably aiding in that as well. But because I can't really open this seam up and press the seam one direction or the other like you typically do in a French seam, this is what's left to me. Oh yeah, Allison. Some woman said it in such a funny way, I gave her points for that. It was something like, geez, stop talk, what was it? Something about like your aunt, like, wait to tell Aunt Tessie the story or something weird like that and just get on with it. You know what I mean? Like, basically they were just like, can you just please stop talking and get on with it? But it was kind of a cute way to say it. Or people will do like, this actually gets started at, and they put a time because they're like frustrated with how long it takes me to get to sewing. I don't care. Yeah, exactly, Michelle. And I don't fault them for that. Like I said, I like those videos too. In fact, when I would refer people to knitting videos, like at a show, if I was wearing a sweater or whatever, you know, and I'd start talking to someone about knitting, and they're like, oh, I really want to knit that pattern, but I don't know how to do the blah, blah, blah cast on or whatever. And I'm like, you know, my thing is I would go to YouTube, look for that tutorial, look for the video that is like 3 or 4 minutes, and then I would watch that video, you know? So I'm totally guilty of that. So, yeah. So I think adding the timestamps would be really great. Yeah, me either, Alicia. Sometimes I don't. But it's really satisfying on this linen. Okay, so... Alright. So I'm going to come down like this. And then I'm going to go back up here and enclose my seam, because this needs to form the opening. The opening doesn't need to be the entire pocket. You can do that, but your pocket will probably feel a little too big for the opening. And then the other thing about that is, oh, I just lost my train of thought. This just forms the pocket opening because you only needed about 5.5 inches. Oh, the other thing is, if you leave your pocket open this amount, it's less secure. So you really kind of need to come up here, especially so that you have more of a drop into the bag of the pocket. So I'll do the same thing. I'll come up and then, you know, continue my seam down, but I'm going to come back and kind of define the pocket opening. Trying to keep my pockets one on top of the other. And the thing is, like, you want to kind of go past where you sewed the pocket to the skirt. I don't know if you can see that I went kind of past it right here. So yeah, the seam allowance may be a little different there, but the thing is, I'll show you why that kind of smooths things out and makes things easier, takes the pressure off of you doing your pocket. Oh, I hope I'm matching my plaid. I forgot to check. So so let's see. I'm gonna look at my pocket opening. I'm gonna go about up to there, right here. Can always change it. All right, so the reason you want to come inside from that seam is so that if it's not lined up, like say you didn't get to stack it one on top of the other, you see that it's invisible in there. So this seam lines up with this seam like that. That's really all that matters. And so you can see your seam of your pocket, it's way back there, but that's okay. So that's a little small. I'm gonna back that off a little bit. And I find that coming in from your seam a little bit to do that kind of definition, or even to finish your seam, coming in from this seam, it actually helps your pocket look better. As long as you're not going too crazy lining up from the top to the bottom, like where you came in, it'll work, you know? Yeah, exactly, Una. I mostly watch live streams as background. I really like it. I definitely get some weird looks from some of the things that I'm listening to sound, because they're games, you know? But I just find it nice, you know, nice company. And I don't have to focus on it because I listen to a lot of audiobooks. But lately I'm unable to do that because I'm editing a video and I'm trying to listen to what the video is saying and making sure everything's correct. And I've actually been just listening to music, which is so refreshing. I don't listen to music often enough. Let's get rid of all these little thread tails. My machine loves to leave these little tiny tails. All right. Trying to figure out, like, could I have done this better right here? I think it's just awkward right there, but it looks pretty good. All right, so then now we have our pocket, just like that. And so when I iron it, like say if I just leave this relaxed, just like this, right? It's lined up like this. Plaids are pretty good. I knew it would be really hard to match these angles. Oh, that's way better. All right, so yeah, so that works great. Okay, let's do our other side now. Why do I keep having threads right here? They were like this on the other side too. Did I I don't know. All right, Minna, how's it going? Or how's it going? Have a good day. Yeah, right? You know exactly. Okay. So same thing, I'm going to come down a little bit and I want to try and get it in about the same place as this one so that my pockets don't feel different from left to right. So I have it about, I'm going to say from the top of my pocket edge about 3/4 of an inch. All right, and then I'm going to enclose this. I didn't check my bobbin. I hope at least my other one filled. I think I did my seam allowance a little bigger than the other one. Oh, I hate it when I do that. Okay. So this bump right here, it wants to, when my presser foot goes up onto this, it wants to push it away, you know? So you gotta kind of alleviate that pressure and hold that seam on there. There we go. I was having trouble getting my foot to do what I was telling it to do. It's like when you think too much about it, you know, it's like when someone asks you, how do you do whatever? And you're like, how do I do that? You know, it's something you just do without thinking. This was not great here. All right, let's look at my opening here. So I just, you know, used a pattern I had laying around. That's why I don't really have any references. This is all inside the pocket though. I'm not worried about that. Get rid of all of our little threads. Have you ever had a garment so clean finish that you accidentally put it on inside out and you don't realize it for a bit? I had that happen recently, and I think it was a Scout tee. You know? It was kind of funny. It did not look good enough to wear inside out, but I just, you know, didn't have my glasses on. It was dark in my closet. I just threw it on. And then I was like, oh. All right, so let's look and see how this one looks. This pocket goes to the front. I think one thing I'm not a big fan of is that my side seam's got to go towards the front. My plaid match is pretty good there for being on that angle. That looks pretty good. All right. One of the other kinds of pocket styles I really like are the cutaway pockets. So there'd be like a little scoop right here and then the pocket stitched down to the garment. I really like those because they always stay forward and they're less fabric. Really, Alicia? That's so funny. It's a testament to your sewing skills, right? All right, so I'm gonna do the ruffle to this now so that I don't have to deal with the whole dress attached to it at the same time. So my idea for my ruffle, I'm gonna check the width here. So I think what I'm going to do is about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to probably trim off 1/4 of an inch off this ruffle here. And I think I should just do that with a rotary knife really quick. We'll do that now. It'll be faster than my scissors. You know? So I'm going to do a pretty narrow seam allowance on the ruffle to the upper skirt. I'm going to leave the little lower piece much wider. I'm going to turn it over the seam allowance to finish it. This way I can kind of enclose all the raw edges in the seam without having to use a serger, which if you have a serger, you could totally do that. I mean, that would be easier. I'm just trying to get away without using a serger. And a French seam with a ruffle with pleats would be really hard to do. So this is why I'm going to do it this way. So a more accurate way to trim this is to go by the width of your ruffle rather than what you're cutting off. You know what I mean? So if my ruffle needs to finish, let's see, what is it? It needs to finish about 1 3/8 inch. Plus I want like a fat 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. The more accurate thing to do would be to measure from this folded edge. Because you can even see it right here. Like this right here is narrower than what I just cut than right there. See that? That would be more accurate. It'd be more precise to figure out the width of your ruffle rather than what you need to trim off. Because what if your ruffle isn't even width? And mine apparently is not. I tried to make it an even width, but then when you sew it together, all my seams were diagonal because of where I cut my ruffle. It also makes it less bulky. So you can see my seams right there. Rather than it being a vertical seam going up and down on the ruffle, and then the join of the piece would be one on top of the other, so it creates kind of a bulky spot there for the pleats. I'm so close to the edge of my mat right now. I'm worried I'm gonna cut on my sewing table. When you start, if you get a nick in it, you need to change it. Invariably that happens. Like if you start cutting and it's like attached here, like everywhere, every time the blade rotates around to that one spot, it doesn't cut through. You need to change the blade. If you're trying to push too hard to get it to cut, you need to change the blade. And I am a pretty aggressive blade changer, but I'll tell you why. You can get repetitive motion issues with your hand and your wrist if you don't change your blade as often. And I've been in hand therapy for that, so that's why I'm pretty protective of it. It's a more pleasurable experience to cut with something that's sharp as well. So, I'm a big fan of it. I know the blades are expensive, but your hands are worth more. That was one of the most frightening things I've been through because I couldn't even hold a book. Just doing a little bit of rotary cutting, I can feel the injury. So I've used those sharpeners and I haven't had as much luck as I'd like to. Other people swear by them, and I just feel like it's kind of hit and miss. I also always buy the brand of the blade. I don't buy the cheaper ones that you see on Amazon. In fact, I've returned those when I've gotten them accidentally. Like, it looks like the Ulfa blade. Those don't last as long. They're cheaper, but they don't last as long. All right, so that's not too bad. I'm gonna pleat this baby up. I've had my rotary knives for like 20 years. That was the first thing she said. She's like, well, maybe you need to get a new rotary knife. And I was like, you show me which one to get. And then she was like, wow, you're right. There aren't ergonomic ones because they have blades, rotary knives that say ergonomic. But the thing is, you guys, what I learned is when you're holding a blade, right, when you're holding a rotary knife, you are bending your wrist. Your wrist is not staying in line with your arm. So this is the problem. This is where you start getting issues. So, and I've tried figuring out a way to do it. You could do this, like hold your rotary knife like this. That is dangerous though, and it can be, but there are people who do that, and that's the way they do it. So it's dangerous for me. I couldn't do that. I don't feel very accurate, and I can't see very well. So that's what I learned going through hand therapy, is because the broken wrist is the worst type of thing. And and you're like putting all this pressure right here, right? And you're not putting it with your wrist lined up. It's broken. So you're putting it like in this really weird, putting all this stress in this really weird spot. I don't explain it well. I'm not an expert in it. I just know what I learned, a little therapy I went through for it, you know? And I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to knit or sew or use a computer anymore. I couldn't hold a book in bed. And it really came upon really quickly on me. All right, so I'm just deciding right now, see, my problem with doing this side is what if I don't sew this in a straight line? I have this wiggly, you know? So I'm going to make the non-striped side my right side. Oh yeah, and look, I didn't even get the stripe to the very end. Oh yeah, I did, never mind. All right. I almost did this without you guys, and I was like, okay, I'm getting a little off kilter here. Like, how much prep is too much prep? How much prep means I'm cheating on you guys. So to figure out how much I needed, I had already cut this out and pieced it and ironed it. When I decided, Melinda, when, because I was originally going to do gathered and then I decided to do pleated. So what I did was, yes, I eyeballed my pleated ruffle on my yoke. I measured the hem right here of the yoke ruffles and measured the finished amount. I'm trying to explain how I knew how much I needed. So I measured this right here, the hem. I measured this. I figured out what the difference was and what that percentage and that ratio was. And that's how I knew. So then I measured where I wanted this to go on my skirt. And then I made sure I had enough ruffle to go there if I pleated it the same way I did on the yoke. You know, I literally, Melinda, hired an assistant to help me out with that. And I was very transparent with her. I said, you know, the thing is, I can't cut as much as I used to with a rotary knife. I need help. I've ended up in hand therapy for it, but I'm also getting a cutting machine. So I got us a cutting machine, and that helped. But she didn't. She would get a little bit tired, like later, like 5 years later. She was like, "Ooh, my hand's a little tired." And she would just take a break. She knew I was like, "Don't mess around with that," you know. Just. And sometimes she'd be like, "No, I only have 2 more." You know, we all do that, right? So. Because a stack cutter, the machine, isn't worth doing for some cuts. It's almost more work. But if it's really thick, it's worth it. And we were cutting over 100 layers of fabric at a time with that thing. But say we were doing like a limited edition run for Halloween. We always did something called spooky boots for Halloween, for chicken boots at Halloween time. We did spooky boots. And we would only buy 3 bolts of fabric for it. An outer fabric, a lining fabric, and a binding fabric. So basically 45 yards, but it was like a 15-yard thing, right? So we would hand cut that. We wouldn't use the machine for it. Cutting like 12 layers of fabric on the machine, it felt really weird to do. So that reminds me, I need to sell that machine. I'm sorry, my presser. I wish I could get this. I'm going to try and get it so I don't have to lift my presser foot up, because I know that sound is so annoying. You can put the closed captioning on so you don't have to listen to it. Here, I'm going to do my best not to, here we go. Oh yeah, the awl is making this easier. Of course it is. Ooh, look at me go. Oh, no, I can't go. Yeah, right, Alicia? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, sometimes scissors are just the way to go. You know, you just got to do what's comfortable to you. I don't think one way is better than the other for anybody. I feel faster and more accurate with a rotary knife now. But I wouldn't, if I was doing pattern drafting, I would use scissors. That's a little thick right there because of that seam. So if you have a ruffling foot, this is what it does. Most likely it pleats. It doesn't gather. There's a gathering foot and a ruffling foot. This is how I've seen them. The ruffling foot will do this. It does the little pleats. It's kind of a big contraption too, from what I remember. Gotta love, I matched the stripes, but I got one color off there. No one knows, right? Like halfway, guys. Hang in there. Let's hope I have enough. You don't really? Oh my gosh. So when I have the saga of these bin videos, man. They have had some bad luck. And once I figured out I could do the timestamp thing, I was watching one yesterday to put in the timestamps to like make sure I got them accurate. And man, that presser foot noise was driving me nuts. I eventually didn't hear it either, but you know. That's why there's a command in chat. If you type in !" noise for new folks, so people could just put that in there. Because sometimes people will join chat and they're like, "What's that noise?" Ooh. What's the what are they selling, Terry? Tell us. What are they selling? Are they selling a 8700? Terry bought a machine like mine recently. I think I'm going to do a video on why I sew. So, oh, I meant to tell you guys, I watched that, the sewing report video that she did almost a couple weeks ago about, my arm's getting tired from doing this. 8780. What's an 8100? What does that do? But they have a 8700 as well. You could put a binding attachment on it. Or you could get a buttonhole. Someone, who is it? One of you told me about this buttonhole attachment you can get for my machine. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't have a zigzag. So what happens is the attachment moves it around so that it makes a zigzag. It was kooky to watch. But my problem with it was you'd have to pretty much leave it permanently attached. This person said I didn't have to. There was a way to get one that you don't. If you do a lot of buttonholes, though, I don't know if you want a $400 buttonholer. But hey. If you want a binding machine, the binding attachment's only $35. Think of the masks you could make. You could pay for your machine pretty quickly. Oh, come on. Don't fold there, please. I feel like I made these folds smaller. Did I? Almost done, guys. It's tempting for me to keep my one machine with a binding attachment, but I don't really need to. And it might help someone. They may need it. All right, I'm going to stop away from there just in case I need to add more. Economy. Oh, okay. You were like, yeah, I mean, a second machine's nice. If you're making jeans, having two machines, one with the top stitch thread and one with your regular thread, that's tempting for me. But I couldn't put cameras on both. That's the good thing that stops me. Plus, I really want my setup to be at home one day. We have a little cottage, and I want to move it into this little cottage because we're not going to use it as an income thing. All right, I'm just folding this in 4 to see if I have enough ruffle. And I do. Oh, it goes to the bottom though. It's close. It's close, you guys. Okay. All right. So my idea is I'm going to sew the ruffle on with a narrow seam allowance. Other end. Yeah, especially that top stitch thread, because you kind of need to change the tension. Like, I have to really drastically change my tension on my machine, on the upper, when I use that top stitch thread. Is this close enough to the, I think I need one more. I think I need one more, but I need some seam allowance there. No, it's just going to be like that. Okay. I'll just hang it off a little bit. Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna sew a tiny bit and then I'm gonna put my other piece on. So here's my idea, and then, oh, I need to put my ruffle together, or my hem together. Let's do that first. It has a bird's, ooh. That sounds like a bobbin issue. I call that thread vomit. I like birds nesting better. Okay, so I'm just gonna look at these and see how identical they are, so I don't have to worry about matching the plaids. They should be. All right, so let's put our skirt together here. Definitely, Alicia, I'm sure you've tried everything, but I would definitely change the needle if you're having that kind of issue. Change the needle, rethread the whole machine. Don't just pull it through. Take everything out, rethread it. Make sure things are seated properly in all your tension discs. And clean out your bobbin case or bobbin holder. So that may help if you haven't done some of those things. Yeah, just get service. Allison. You know what you can do, Allison? This is actually a pretty good tip. So one time, Ran and I sliced through the cord of our stack cutter machine. And let me tell you, it was very exciting in the worst possible way. There were sparks and everything. So when we did that, I had trouble finding like where to go to fix the cord. Well, you know what I figured out, and this is what you can do, is go to a lamp or lighting place. You know, people who install lighting fixtures, you know, there's in some towns there's just that one store that does that. And I just brought it in, and for $20 they fixed it for me. Like, they actually did the whole cord and everything. Like, a couple years later, we were feeling like the plug, because this is old, this machine's from the 70s. We felt like the plug was getting a little loosey-goosey, and so I just said, hey, do you mind checking this out? It's like kind of acting funny. And then they rewired the whole plug and everything for me, checked the whole thing over for the first time they did it for free. The second time they charged me like $20. So that would be my tip. Because then you don't have to take it to a sewing machine service person. Go to a lighting store, because they're electricians. Or think of a place you can go where there's electricians. You don't have to take it to the sewing machine store for a pluck. So there you go. Yeah, that's a good point, Terry. Yeah, and get it serviced maybe. I'm gonna iron this real quick. This is gonna be a quick ironing thing. All right. My mic's a little far away. Just put my French seam in this little lower ruffle, lower skirt section.
Knock, knock.
Hello.
You have a second, Sarah?
Who's that?
It's David.
Oh, I'm live streaming now. Can I find you afterward?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Are you going to be in the building?
I'm not. I've actually taken off. It was just about your clamshell heat thing.
My clamshell what?
The heat press. We'll talk later.
Oh, my heat transfer machine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, guys. All right. Now at least my iron's hot. I was like, wait. Okay, so this is where it's supposed to match. It's okay. Maybe it'll match better when, you know, it's one thing I forget. When you're matching plaids, you need to think about how it matches on the seam line, not the cut edge. I think I was pretty in over my head at this point. I was pretty starving when we were doing this part, but I do forget that sometimes. A lot of times you can get around it, like you can fake it afterward, like this is on the bias, but note. All right. I thought drag a little. Did you see that? It kind of dragged. That usually drags like when it's on uneven surfaces. Okay, now we're ready. Keep track of the right side. Oh, I forgot to match my plaids. Oh, look at that. That's not bad. I think this one's not as good. Oh, it's not too bad though. Okay. Okay. We'll take that. I deserve a little luck with this stuff lately. I feel like I kind of get myself into a pickle sometimes. Okay. So I have this monumental ruffle here. This is my skirt. Let's make sure. So my idea is to hang this edge off more. So maybe what I'll do is start from the other side. I think that would be smarter. I kind of needed to see it, you know? And then that way, if I have a wider seam allowance, what I'm thinking is I can finish the edge like this. You know what I mean, jelly beans? That's my plan. A fake flat felled seam. I think it's funny when someone comes to my door from here in the building, and if they hear that I'm streaming, they get really nervous. It's kind of cute. My husband used to stop by, but now that he has to work from home, he doesn't stop by anymore. I miss that. Okay, I'm gonna start from the other side. Oh, this skirt is a little heavy. So then I want this to be my right side. Okay. Like this. So these two edges line up. I would like to pre-sew this, but I'm not going to. So I'm gonna leave it like that, I think. So that way, yes, I'm still losing some of the overall length of my dress and skirt because I had to cut a seam in it. But I'm not going to be using as much seam allowance, so this is hoping enough. As long as I have at least 1/4 of an inch that I can turn over that and then top stitch it down. My only problem is that I didn't really stitch my ruffles quite at just 1/4 of an inch. You know? Yeah, but I do have these straight lines. Try and match my plaid. Then this way I don't have to overlock my edge and I don't have to do a French seam. This isn't wide enough seam allowance, I can tell already. Well, blimey, it is in some spots. Okay, let's move back here. I'd like to catch this on my first pass. That's why I'm checking. I don't want to do it again. Okay, so now I'm getting away from my straight seam, my straight plaid. Having plaid is such a nice little guide, you know. But now we're in the curve. All right, so my side seam needs to press forward, but it doesn't on the bottom part. That'll be good, because it'll be a little harder to hem over this thickness where the seam is. Come on, seam. Come on, seam, match up. Who would have pinned this? It would have been faster if I'd pinned it. All right, matching the plaids, matching the plaids. Come on, plaids, come on. Give me a plaid. All right. Getting all those little threads in the seam allowance. I'm such a puller that I'm trying not to pull the skirt, but I am pulling my ruffle. I don't know why. I shouldn't, because I don't want this to wash differently. Even though it's all pre-washed, I don't want the bulkiness of this seam to draw in my skirt, you know? I thought about binding this edge, but I actually thought that would be too bulky. You know how you see those garments with the like a beautiful coat and they don't line up but they bind all the seams inside? hubba hubba, right? I would love to do that. It just wouldn't work on this because this would be too bulky. I thought about it. I made all that binding for it, and then I was like, we'll use that for the hem. I'm gonna hem that's another way I'm gonna get some of my fabric back, my length of my skirt, by binding the hem instead of hemming it, you know, like stitching it. My plaid is kind of getting off here. Come on, plaid. Come on, plaid. We're more than halfway. My internet's gonna change any day now. I'm a wee bit nervous about that. We all know how I feel about this. Okay, so this seam needs to go towards the front because of those pockets. I have enough ruffle. Woo woo. Okay. Oh no, come on, plaid. Come on, come on. Get back on track. Get back on track. Do you ever find when you're sewing something like this is thick, what will happen is it'll draw the bottom up like this, it tightens it, and then your top is too big? I think that's something I struggle with a lot. I often wonder if it's my machine doing it. Like if my machine makes it worse, you know? Okay. So, I do need to worry about my center fronts matching. I'm going to stop about right here. Take out some of my pleats here. Flatten it out a little bit before it gets to the center front. I don't think that's enough, actually. I could make the pleats go all the way up to the center front. My issue is that I need a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I don't have to worry about the folds with the placket. Would you stop it? What's going on here? Oh, I'm taking out the pleats. Yeah, okay, that's why. Okay. I'm like, why won't it? All right. Ruffle chicken. All right. Let's see how I did. And and then we're going to finish this little edge here. So I'm just looking for any of my stitching on the ruffles showing. There's some right here. That's it. Okay, so there's this one little spot right here. So I think I'm gonna just stitch it better. Right over my seam. I could just take out those stitches on the ruffle. That'd be probably better. Let's see. The skirt's heavy. All right, so now I'm gonna hem over it. So now I may want to trim that edge, but this is my plan. I'm just going to tuck that in there and top stitch it down. I think I'm going to iron it. You guys still there? I'm always paranoid when you guys are that quiet. I'm going to iron it. That way it's nice and flat and I can kind of do myself a service and inspect it a little bit more, you know, because so one thing I'm giving up with this style is the fact that I won't be probably edge stitching it right here. Oh, look at that plaid seam is kind of off. Ugh. That's kind of a bummer, you know. Let's see here. At least she's all, yep. Iron this. Yeah, this is cute. I'm not much on ruffles and things like that, but I do love pleats and I like things like this. Oh, you're working from home, yeah. Naughty. No, I'm just teasing. Gosh, it probably is dinner time, huh, Terry? What's for dinner tonight, Terry? My husband's been making beans and rice lately, and it's so good. Like black beans, brown rice, and then he'll like make eggs in it and cheese. Like last night he made it with some of this cheese in it. That was so good. It's so simple, but I'm really into really simple food. That wouldn't be a classic thing he would usually make, because he usually cooks something with meat in it. If the plaid matches really good, I feel like this effect is pretty amazing. My plaid is mediocre, like right there, it's pretty mediocre. But it's kind of cool when your plaids line up really well. It looks like the ruffles just coming out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Ooh. Oh, they are, Una? Oh, interesting. Lasagna. I love making lasagna. What did I make the other day? Oh, I made calzones the other day. That's always a winner. I make all the baking type things. All right, let's look at this side. I'm telling you, this fabric's super satisfying to iron. So, look at that wiggly. Oh my goodness. Why does that look so wiggly? Like, it doesn't look wiggly here. Oh man. There's nothing like plaid to show you the error of your sewing. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have looked at this. I'm kind of not liking. This is the thing. When you start, stop, and when you're sewing, it's when I do, I'm less accurate. It's why I say when you're on a curve, try not to stop. Just try to keep going. Find a pivot point on your piece to pivot it. You'll be more consistent, more smooth, more parallel, you know, if you don't stop. But of course, I sit there and go vroom, 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 you know, zoom, 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 and it's less accurate. That's a good sign of a production sewist that can do that and stay really accurate. All right. So this is what I'm giving up. I'm going to end up having a top stitch like up here. I need to move all this stuff. The dress is getting heavy. The ruffle is heavy. Nice and finished. All right. A little tedious. I kind of want it nice and snug in there. Some of these threads I'm going to have to trim for sure. Pulling them apart as well. This is actually feeling really good. Like I thought, I was a little worried my presser foot would want to fall off the edge because it's mostly on, it's like straddling the thicknesses. One leg of my presser foot is on the thickness, the other's not. And that's just a recipe for it slipping off. That looks okay. I like the look of edge stitching a lot. Do you guys do things like this where you like finish all the details on, like I'm finishing all the details on the skirt and then I attach it to the bodice? It's like two complete things. I gotta figure out how to finish my waist seam still. That I may bind. I could do the same kind of thing though. Yeah. That's nice. I ended up making a burrito of everything in our fridge. That's awesome, Derry. You got to just pull out your the lunch pieces when you serve up the dinner pieces. I've done that for sure. My daughter does not like leftovers, and I love leftovers. I don't know how anyone lives without them. But there's a joke in my house right now. Our fridge in our house is so small that we plan our like the containers that will fit in the fridge. So I'm like, how many containers is that meal gonna add to our fridge? You know? Hi, Beverly. Yeah, you like that idea? I like that idea too. I think that it's thin enough that I could do that. I have enough binding. I made oodles of it. I'm going to bind my sleeve hems. Oh, I don't have enough binding for both, honestly. I could probably get more, but it's getting like, I'm getting to the like short pieces. Yeah, I don't. Well, there's only 3 of us. This is what we have learned is that when we have people over, we don't make enough food. My husband's not a very big eater, and I'm not either, and my daughter either. So I always feel bad. I feel like people leave hungry, even though we'll make like 6 things. You know, it's like the portions aren't very big. It's terrible. It's good. There's room for dessert. There's always room for dessert, right? Yeah, like that's the thing, right? We have a Breville toaster oven, and that makes leftovers 10 times better than a microwave. That, I think, is the key. I'm trimming my seam a little bit because I want to live on the edge here and cut my dress, right? It feels a little like it's poking up a little more here. So when I made the calzones the other night, I don't know why, but the pizza dough recipe in the Bread Bible book, I've never used it. It's the one my husband had found. He's been using it, and it tastes good. It's fine. It works. It's great. But it makes the absolute smallest pizza dough ever. Even doubling it, it's barely big enough for a pizza. And so I doubled it, and then I cut it into 6 for the calzones. Calzones are just so great because you can fill them with whatever, and everyone can have whatever they want then. And I'm not a huge pizza fan, but I like calzones. And so I barely had enough for 6 calzones, and they weren't big. They weren't like the huge ones you get when you go out, you know. Yeah, right, Terry? I know, the toaster oven is just so great. I love it. My friend Kathleen locally, she got the same one I have. And sometimes she'll text me the cutest text. She'll be like, I just roasted a chicken in my toaster oven. I'm like, I know, it's so great. You can do everything in that thing. And it's convection too. It's faster than the oven, and it doesn't heat up our house, you know, because we live in such a hot climate. It's really handy for not heating up your whole house. Ironically, the thing that my Breville doesn't do very good is toast. So, that's cool. I don't know much about the air fryers, but that seems kind of like a good thing. I'm not sure I have room to add an appliance on our countertop, though. My husband was thinking about a Instapot, and I was like, yeah, you show me 10 recipes that you're going to use in that thing first. Because we have a crock pot. I'm so terrible to live with, you guys. I'm one of those people that I'm like, you know, Earth wasn't created with Instapots. Agave nectar isn't real. We use agave nectar. I'm not dissing on agave nectar, but I'm just saying, like, I am such a, like, is it really necessary? They didn't use these back in Wagoneer days. There's not even such a thing as Wagoneer days, I know. Yeah, single-use items, exactly. That's how I should call it a single-use item. That would actually drive it home for him. So we had someone gave us a bread machine. And it was a person in the family that anyway, I kept it. I ended up only using it for the dough function. The dough function was so great. So you could put throw everything in there, press dough, and it would just make your dough for you perfectly, right? I could walk away, do whatever. You just had to put your liquid last. Liquid on the bottom, actually, all your dry ingredients, and then your yeast, and then you press start. That was the trick. You used to layer it correctly. But mine, I'm not sure it's working, and I don't want to ruin a bunch of yeast and dough again to find out, but I need to. But that was my single-use item in the house, Sydney, is my my dough maker. But it was so great, you know. I could set it up and I could make cinnamon rolls, I could make pizza dough, I could make bread, I could make whatever. I just didn't bake it in the bread machine, which is so iffy anyway. Yeah, it's a rice, beans, pressure, slow cooker machine. Exactly, isn't it? I mean, I feel like that's what someone said to me, because I was kind of being skeptical of it. And they were like, well, mostly I only ever see beans and rice cooked in those. And I'm like, well, I can do that already. So, but, you know, kudos to everyone who's into them. That's awesome. We all have our favorite appliances, you know. Mine's my little toaster oven, my KitchenAid mixer, my Cuisinart. I really hope I've been paying attention and pulling this apart. I don't want a gap. I don't want a bubble on the other side between these two stitch lines. If I would have said that to myself earlier on, I would have been even more diligent about this. The pinning would have made it sew faster. It probably would have taken the same amount overall, but at least I could have just kept sewing, you know. Trimming the threads would have been made faster too. That's awesome, Terry. But if you use it, it doesn't matter. You know? But you know, I will get out every appliance to bake stuff. I get the Cuisinart out, the KitchenAid, you know, I'll do it all. I don't mind. I don't mind cleaning it either. I am so hot right now, and I put it to 75 degrees, so I'm not sure if it's just not kicking on or what. You know? These lights, I think I have to just, 74 is usually what I put it at, and that sounded kind of cool today. All right, here we are. We are at the beginning. Moment of truth. Oh, that's a good idea. Makes fries good. Now that sounds pretty, like a great idea. Ooh, look at that little, I have a little fold from this seam. That's annoying. I may fix that later on. I could be stitching this a little straighter. I won't stop and fix some of this now. If I want, I'll probably do it at a later time. Like, once I started really thinking about the other side, this side does look better. That looks pretty cute. All right. It is time to put the skirt onto the bodice. So what am I gonna do here? Should I do the binding? I just don't know if I have enough. Binding. Rice cookers are pretty cool. But if you use them a lot, then they're really useful. All right, so let's see. We have do I do binding? Like, I love the idea of doing the binding, Beverly. I feel like I keep picturing it this narrow. I don't think I can get it that narrow. I'm trying to think. You know, because of the gathers. What would be the best way? I did just what I did on that ruffle seam. I did that on the Maya Sodis? No, on the hedgehog dress. Oh, a toaster oven is like a miniature oven. So it's like a countertop oven. Mine's convection, so it circulates the heat in there really good. So you don't have to use your whole oven, but it has like a burner on top and on the bottom, so you can broil in there and you can toast things. You can just make toast if you want. I don't have a toaster. I just have a toaster oven. Yeah, it's just basically a tiny oven. We're on our second one. Like, we actually used the heck out of our old one. Like, we loved it. And my parents, they're on their second one, but only because I lost one in the fire. Theirs looks pristine no matter what. Because that's my mom. All right, I'm going to sew this seam together and decide. Since I know I'm not doing a French seam, I still need to put my gathers, though, between. So maybe I'll do that now. I didn't. That's what it was. I put my notches on the waist here on the back, but I didn't put it on the front. So let me do that real quick. Yeah, and it's so nice because like I hardly use the microwave because the microwave, we all know what a microwave, how it reheats things. Whereas the toaster oven, if there's something that needs to be crispy, it'll crisp it. The heat is just different. It doesn't it's not moist heat. It's like dry heat. Okay, I already got these notches. But you know, if you just want to do like one little cookie sheet of cookies, you know, say you make a bunch of cookie dough and you freeze your cookie dough in the freezer, it's so great. You could just make 2 cookies in your toaster oven. Right, Beverly? I know, I totally agree. Okay, let's put the gathers in here. So one thing I thought of that I wish I would have thought of earlier was I think I would have liked the gathers in the back waist to go all the way between the 2 darts. Sydney. That, you know, it's funny how time flies. Right? Come on, come on. I'm about to run out of bobbin. Oh yeah. Gonna put my other one. Go in here. I don't know, Terry. It just works really, really good. The convection aspect is so nice because a lot of toaster ovens heat unevenly, and that convection aspect helps that, you know. You can cook a whole pizza in there. Because it started hiccuping right here. You know, it started like pulling the fabric a little bit. So when I wind my bobbin, I probably don't do it the way as you're like taught. So what I do is I go like this. I wind my thread around the bobbin. I don't stick it through the hole and hold it. Mainly because it's on the side of my machine. I do that. I push in the thing to engage it. And then I start sewing. I'm not looking at that when it starts winding. Like, so like on your home machine, you can like thread it through the little hole, hold it, and then it'll go around. So when it gets close to being done, it does a funny little thing where I wound it, because sometimes I'm winding it against the direction that it all was wound. So I just know. I'm pretty sure that's why it does that. I can hear it. I can hear when my machine starts to run out of bobbin. You'll get the hang of it, Terry. You'll hear it. But you know, you just need 2 bobbins for every color now on your industrial. So you always have one winding. It also means you need 2 cones of thread. So you can have one winding and one you're using all the time. You never have to wind a bobbin again, but you need 2. So there's a drawback, I guess. Okay, so let's just sew this together. Plain old seam. I remember what those were like. You know, actually, maybe what I'll do is do this more like a 1/2 inch. If I can get all my gathers in there. Well, this one I kind of cut close. Just to gain a little bit of length since I added my ruffle seam. So I'm kind of pulling my ruffles here. I'm looking at them and I'm pulling them straight down. I have 2 rows and I actually fixed these last stream. I sewed across them to really cinch them down. I could have done that on these. I just forgot I did that. So I want my gathers to be nice and straight. I think they look better that way. I like it to be a gather, not a little fold. You know, like when your gathers don't look as nice because of that. All right, so I need my skirt seam forward, my waist seam to the back. Oh, and I'm matching plaid. I caramba. Who designed this thing? Let's get this plaid straight. Dead on. Come on. Got a little pinch in my side seam there. The way I discovered my Breville was, at the time I had a subscription to Cook's Illustrated magazine. And I like that. If I were to subscribe to another cooking magazine again, I like Cook's Illustrated. I like the nerdiness they put into it. Oh, I didn't do the gathers on my back skirt yet. What the heck? I only did it on the front of my back skirt. Okay. So like say they make a lemon bar recipe. They will then deconstruct the whole thing. They'll be like, what if we put more egg in it? What if we put more lemon in it? What if we put this kind of lemon in it? What if we put this, rather than a Meyer, a different kind of lemon? What if we use this kind of flour? And they really nerd out on it. And I find that really interesting. They really look at the chemistry of it. And so they also do this about appliances, knives, peanut butter. And I kind of, that's where I got, crap. Cramp. I just put my gathering stitch in the wrong spot. Dang it. I checked for that and then I still got it in the wrong spot. I have my center back seam, or center back marked, and I thought that was the other side of my gathers. I had already stitched it to the skirt right here, so I need to take this out. So they had one on the Breville once, on toaster ovens. And that's where I got the information on the Breville. I was like, all right, well, if we ever get one, this is the one I want. And because it had the qualities I wanted, they look at it like, oh, if you're looking for this kind of feature, this is what you want. And so they don't necessarily put it down. They just say, if you're looking for something that does this kind of thing best, look at this machine. So, yeah, right, Beverly? I know. Yeah, I think it's super, super interesting. I remember I go through phases of baking, and I'll like go on a shortbread thing. You know, like I want actual real shortbread. You know, and so I start with one recipe and whatever, you know. I'm that way about scones. I do not like the way scones are mostly made here in the States. They're just terrible. I also use mostly an old Joy of Cooking book for a lot of recipes, especially for American style recipes. I just find it to be best. You have to get it before a certain year because after a certain year, they put in a lot of health things, which I support that, but you don't get authentic recipes. So I have one from the early 70s, and I have one from the late 90s. My Joy of Cooking is falling apart, in fact. But that, like my Joy of Cooking, it just has like the best scone recipe in it. I've changed it a little bit, but yeah. It's I mean, I like the bread Bible too, but I don't have, you know, I'm not a big bread baker. So, okay, let's try this again. All right, we're matching plaids. We're matching. Put all these threads that way. The back of this dress is going to look pretty cool because of the plaids. They match way better in the back than they do the front because the front seam is at an angle. So the front gives the illusion of matching, but it doesn't. scone. Yes. Yeah, right, Beverly? And that might be mine. Maybe mine's 77. I think mine's 74. That was the thing I loved when I go to Great Britain. I'll go to like the big, like there's cake just sitting on the counter there. You know, when the has anyone heard of the Edinburgh Yarn Festival? I don't think it's happening anymore. It did for a few years. It was pretty awesome. I went to it, and I was so overwhelmed by the people, though. I ended up spending most of my time in the little break area, and I met some really great people, and I'm friends with them to this day because we were all kind of overwhelmed. One of them is Diana Walla. Do you guys know her? She's Cake and Vikings on Instagram. I met her there, but you go up to the little snack counter, and there were like 4 full cakes, different kinds, just sitting there. Like they looked home baked. I was like, yeah, these are my people. There was none of that like health regulation junk happening. It was cake. But I will go to some of those little like cafeteria style places and get scones. I don't think I've made the carrot cake in Joy of Cooking. That's one of my mom's favorites. I should make that sometime. She loves lemon bars, and so that's something I'm always on the hunt for, a really good lemon bar recipe. The current one I use is from Cooks Illustrated. It's pretty good. I have a Martha Stewart one. Sometimes her recipes can be good. I don't follow her. I just would run across them occasionally in this magazine I was looking at the time. So I have a couple of those cut out. Those are pretty good. And Savour. You guys heard of Savour? I act like I cook. You guys know I don't cook, right? I bake. But my husband does cooking. You know, he likes cooking. So. But Savour is like a travel cooking magazine. That is a beautiful magazine, but honestly, like, it's kind of hard to do the recipes. But that's one of my favorite shortbread recipes, actually, is in Savour. And you mix it on the countertop. You guys hungry yet? All right. Let's see. I can't wait to see the way the plaids match. Oh yeah, baby. Ding, ding, ding. Looks okay. Like, what do you guys think of the gathers together like this? This isn't a very typical way to sew a waist, where gathers go to gathers like this and then it's smooth, you know? It's kind of awkward. Okay, wait, what happened here? What happened here? What happened here? Why is that all showing there? Did I run out of thread? Wait a minute. It looks like I got my seam. Oh, wow. I may have to pull that out. Look at this is where my gather stitch is. All right, let's pull that one out. Let's pull this one out right here. Look at there's my gathering stitch. What would you guys do? Would you guys do binding here to finish this? I think I'm gonna have to pull it out like this because I can't see where my thread is, which means it'll be a little messy. I still need to do my placket, you guys. I didn't think we'd be taking this long. 2 hours already. So tomorrow I'm cutting out the Alcott dress by Cashmerette. I've had it sitting here for way too long. I read through the instructions and I'm pretty excited to sew it. I wish I would have done that sooner because there's some interesting construction techniques in it. Like we add elastic to the neckline. It is a wrap dress. And we add wide elastic to the waist of the dress. So I think that those are really interesting. I like that she doesn't shy away from techniques like that. A lot of pattern companies shy away from techniques that they think people will find difficult. So that'll be fun. I will be using my serger. I'm a little nervous about that. Good night, Malin. Sleep well. Thanks for coming. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to do this from the bodice side now so I can see that stitch line and close it. I saw Ray said she did the same thing. She said, oh, I looked at the instructions for that. That looks fun. That's exactly what I said. I had the exact same reaction when I saw it. I was like, oh, there's some good details in this. Like, those details ensure the success of your dress, you know? Fitting and the rack working properly. Trying to get these plaids to match. That was my bobbin just finishing filling up, Terry. I don't know if you heard it. I don't know if you guys ever hear that. I need some more gathers here. Or maybe this one needs a little. There we go. All right. All right, so I'm going to bind this. I'm going to trim this baby down really low so I can bind it. At least I'm quick with binding, right? I may have to figure out a different hem for my dress. I think I'll bind the sleeves. My sleeves are pretty close fitting. Hopefully that'll be okay. Oh, who is that, Una? I probably know that person too. That's pretty cool. That show's pretty cool. Like, I really feel it was very intimate. You definitely, you really get to talk to people there. I had the best talk with the gal who is one half of Stephen and Penelope. Shoot, I am spacing her name. I feel like it might be something like Malin's name. Can't remember her name. And then, like, that's where I met Grace from Beyond Measure. Oh, thanks for subscribing, Skunkworks. I couldn't see that name for a second there. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Oh, okay, okay. That does sound familiar. There's also a natural dyer from Scotland, so I got some yarn for Brooke. And she was a little like, we have these same plants here, Sarah. She was all excited then when I brought her. She's like, we have these same plants. I'm like, I'm sorry, they didn't have anything unique. She wanted something exotic, I think. All right. All right, let's bind this. Look at all this beautiful binding. All right, where's my seam? Okay. I'm gonna start this right here. This is the right side. I probably could have attached this while I was sewing it, but I kind of wanted the skirt seam, the waist seam to be stabilized before I did it. It would have cut down on the amount of sewing. Now I'm going to go back and do it, and I'm going to do it with the dress up so I can see where I've already stitched, since I already trimmed it down. Get rid of these gathering threads here. Get all these threads in my seam allowance. Make sure your dress is perpendicular to your seam when you're doing stuff like this. I'm gonna try not to pull my binding either. Normally when I'm sewing binding, I do tug it a little, make it easier. This seam needs to go that way. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. Let's see if I can get it to lay a little flatter this time. There's a little tiny bump in it. There we go. That kind of fixed that issue. So Terry, you know you have that little spool holder like back to there, like right here. There's like a little thing you can put your binding on, or an elastic spool. It's kind of handy. You don't need to reply, I know you're cooking dinner. I have a instructional Zoom meeting on Friday with friends, so I'm learning, you guys. I've never hosted a meeting, so that's what I want. I want to learn a little bit about it, and then figure out like how to share my screen and stuff like that, and so that we can have some Zoom meetups. That'll be fun. We can see what we want to do with them. All right. Well, this ended right where I had this funkiness, so that's good. The kickstand. Kickstand? Oh, is that what that is? For tilting the head back? Huh. I use that as a spool holder. That's what I was taught. That's a spool holder. I'm like trying to teach you something and you're like, oh yeah, that's not what that is. Yours might be a little different because it doesn't have the electronics. Mine doesn't tilt back very easily because of the electronics. There's all these extra cords behind my machine. I do miss that I can just kick it back. All right, so my binding, you can tell it's pretty narrow. In fact, this right here is probably a little too narrow. I need to trim this. But even if it's a little narrow, the binding's a little narrow for what you're trying to do, it's pretty stretchy, so you can kind of make it go over there. This is a little too far right here. I'm going to trim this, especially because I know it's bulky because of the gathers. So I'm going to trim this one down. Let's look at any more others. I thought I'd looked it over, but right here I can trim this a little bit. Don't want to trim it too narrow. You want it to trim it to about the width of your binding. If you do it too narrow, it'll be slack inside, and it won't look as nice, you know? I think binding looks much nicer when it's filled. All right, just all. So after this, I'm probably going to do the placket, since that's my next like hard thing to do. And if anyone wants to know how to do a placket, I know you guys have seen plackets on other things. So I kind of, not say I made a mistake. I potentially could have made a mistake, but I should have checked my center front length before I started my binding. My bodice neckline to waist seam needs to be the same on left front and right front so that they line up when they're buttoned. And the skirt, I still have an opportunity to fix that if it's not, because the hem is unhemmed. But because my bodice is bound at the neckline, it's already done. So I should have checked that before I started sewing my waist seam. And I in my head, I keep thinking the neck is not done yet, but it is. We bound it. So hopefully my fronts match at the waist seam. If not, I'm gonna have to see how much it's off. Because a placket can kind of cover up some of that if it's like 1/8 of an inch or less. Alright. We're already across the back here. Look how nice that looks. I don't think I'll top stitch it down, but it is something that's crossed my mind because of the way the gathers lay. It might look nicer if I top stitch it. So we'll look at that. See, like this is a little narrow, so I'm just gonna pick it up and pull over the seam. The bias is stretchy. All right. There we go. Looking good though. See, because my neck is finished here and here. So let's see. Heck, I didn't even check to see if my yoke seams match. Okay, those match. And so I have my plaids to rely on. Dang, I did pretty good there. Look at that. I thought they were 1/8 of an inch off, to be honest. Let's see how these are. These are a little more off. That's so funny because look at the plaids match. See, I sewed the seam a little bit into the burgundy maroon right there, but it clearly is a little more stretched out on this side. Okay, placket time. See, but we might want to top stitch this down. What do you guys think? Do I just leave it loose? I think I'm gonna leave it loose for now, but if I have to top stitch it later, it'll be a little awkward because the placket will be on, you know? It is kind of a weird thing to stitch through gathers, but it's not unheard of. I think I'm gonna leave it because then I have a stitch line here and I wouldn't have it here. All right. Okay, so I've already ironed and interfaced my placket here, and I sort of like looked at where the plaid was going to hit on it, so I kind of planned it like this. I need a drink, man. My throat is raw. I think that's the one I put on this side, and this is the other one. Yeah, so they're not quite the same. So I don't have to worry about matching my plaids going across the bodice. They will, because they already do, but the placket's going to interrupt that a little bit. So I'm going to sew from the back side first, like I always do. I'm going to leave a little bit of seam allowance at the top there. And I only gave myself a 1/4 inch seam here. I'm going to give myself a little bit more at the top there because it'll be a little tricky. There we go. So when I cut my plackets for the dress, I just made a really long piece that was on the bias in the width that I wanted. I didn't make it the exact width of or length that I needed for the dress. And the reason I did that was because bias kind of can stretch and kind of get distorted, even if it's just sitting there coiled up on your, you know, little sewing thing waiting to be sewn in. So I kind of wanted to make sure that it was relaxed as much as possible by the time I got to sewing it. I also thought it would give me an opportunity to use the plaids on it to match to the center front, and I didn't really know what the overall effect would be, so I just left it open because I had a little extra. So my placket's actually longer than my dress. Oh, my dress isn't hemmed yet. Dang, I need to hem my dress, and I don't want to yet. I didn't want to make that choice yet. Shoot. Let's see. Let me think about this. Let's see how much binding I have. I'm like, what the heck? Oh, there we go. Okay, here's my binding. Let's see if I have enough. I forgot. My placket needs to be last because it finishes the whole edge. I think I have enough. Wow. I'm surprised. I do. Well, hot diggity dog. Okay. Now we're going to bind the hem, but let's check it. Check the length. This dress is getting kind of big. Okay, there's my seam. I want to match the plaids there. It's going to be tough. The placket's already drawing up that center front seam. All right, well, we'll stick with that. Okay, go. By the time I'm done with this dress, I think I'll have sewn, I think I'll have sewn 7 yards of binding minimum. I just sewed that so that the right side was on the wrong side. There we go. Back on track. And my ruffle. Hey Adina, how's it going? Still working on my epic plaid dress here. I'm putting the bias hem on, or binding hem that I wasn't going to do right now. I was just going to finish the placket just so that if people wanted to see the placket, they could stay for that and then take off if I decide to keep hemming. But then I realized I need my hems done before I do my placket, so. I pressed all my bias to one side, but I'm going to open it up. When you order bias from a vendor, like you send out fabric to get cut and they send it back to you, typically it's pressed to one side, but they use the like smallest seam allowance you ever saw in your life, and it's pressed really firmly. It's really awesome. When I do it, it's not quite as it doesn't have quite the same effect. So pressing it open is a little less bulky, whereas theirs, it really doesn't matter which way they press it. The pressing is so good. I'm trying not to pull my binding because I don't want to draw up my hem, but it's all washed, so. Unlike the dress I'm wearing now where I put bias as a hem facing last second. Hey DL, how's it going? Thanks for subscribing. Welcome. Kind of at the end of this dress. Oh, dang. Look at that. Okay, I still have enough for sleeves. We're good. Okay, let's just do the binding on this hem real quick, and then we'll get back to our plackets. That's kind of annoying. There's a seam right there. You know? This is when you want to use the binding machine. This is the perfect kind of thing. When the ends are open at either end, this is when you can use the binding machine. The waist seam would have been a little harder just because of the thicknesses of the gathers, you know? It doesn't really like going over thicknesses. It's a little finicky about that. I make it do it, but it doesn't look as good. All right, let's see. It is a lot of dress. I'm glad I got to use my dress form for a little bit of the fit of this because like if I needed to alter the fit on this kind of dress, it would be a lot to take apart. Everything is bound or French seamed at this point, so not my favorite to remove, you know? This feels so autumnal. I don't usually fold from this direction, but I needed a change. Linen, man, it's so good. So, has anyone here made the Alcott before by Cashmere? Anything I need to know? I'm pretty sure it's not in my size this time, but I think it's close enough that I'll get to try it on. It's pretty cool feather bamboo, a feather print in bamboo. All right, almost to the beginning here. Okay. Last little bit. Open you up. Who was that? I remember that too, Sydney. Yeah, who was that? I don't remember. They made it though. They were going to make it, right? They hadn't yet. All right, now move our hem. Let's finish with this Bodice Placket. Okay, I'm gonna get this ruffle to kind of relax here. So I just made my placket 2.5 inches wide cut. So it's a 1 inch finish placket and then a 1/4 inch seam on either side. I kept it pretty simple. I was gonna do 7/8 and then I was like, yeah, you know, let's just make this a little simpler math-wise. I'm fine. I was just arguing with the streamer in a joking way that all numbers are good numbers. It was bugging them that people were, I need to iron this. I'm going to do my other one first, then I'm going to iron it. It was bugging him in a joking way that people were donating these channel points towards something and they weren't doing round numbers. I thought it was really funny. I was like, all numbers are good numbers. This was like the argument I would have, not really an argument, but kind of an argument I would have with clients. Because I would have sometimes a client would come along and they'd be like, they would only put in round numbers, meaning like they would say, oh, we only want the measurements on our finished measurements and sizing and all the grading and all the specs to be quarters, halves, 3/4. There were no 3/8 allowed. Yeah, that's what I thought, Sydney. It might have been Ray. Yeah, maybe that's why she was reading through the directions. Yeah, that's cool. It was impossible to do that, what they were asking. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes, like, if it's on a curve, things will happen where it ends up being 3/8 or 5/16. And they were like, no, those numbers are just too confusing. We really need it to be round. And I was like, it's just a number, though. Like, no one's going to see these numbers but you and me and your factory. And that's it, you know? And it took me a long time to convince them, like, no, you really got to let this go because it's like, fine, we do the base size and these numbers you're talking about. Once it grades to all of those sizes, that goes out the window. You can't really control where some of these measurements go. You can only control the ones that you're grading for, you know? It was kind of funny. Kind of funny and kind of irritating. Not gonna lie. It was just like, okay. It's like, I don't really know how to do that. I was just started to look at my front, but I'm realizing that, yeah, I'm just gonna be careful when I sew it. I don't want my fronts to not match. So I was giving him a hard time because I was like, all numbers are good numbers. It's only our perception that makes it a weird number. Okay. my placket's on the bias, and so the thing is, like, I only interfaced the outer side of the placket, not the inner side. So I'm being really careful. I don't really want this to get stretched out and make it hard to attach the other side to, you know. So I'm starting from the inside, just sewing the inside of my placket to the garment. Because you can see this is all like, this is pretty stable and this is a little more ruffly. You see that? So I gotta be really careful. Bodice is so fun, but only in the way it looks and feels. Maybe not in the way you have to sew it. It can be so not fun. Okay. I'm just gonna cut a piece off there. All right, now let's go to the iron. Move my serger over a little bit. Brought my serger back. Okay, I'm gonna do a little pinning. That looks a little crooked right there. So when I do the bottom here, I'm basically gonna do this kind of thing where I fold it back on itself and go straight across right here. I'm just going to press it towards the placket. And I always pin these like what I like to call the landmarks, like this area here, first. I don't want my placket to torque at all. And being on the bias, it's going to be super finicky. So I'm going to do some of these little spots first. Probably should have sewn across this first before I started pinning. I just won't pin all the way up to the top or the bottom. I can definitely feel that interfacing in there, constricting it a little bit. I didn't even do the interfacing all the way to the cut edge. I really just did it along the finished width. It does feel like it's pulling. Now you see that? That's kind of weird. I don't like that very much. It's not a very long placket. It's kind of a short little dress. Goes to my knees. Get rid of those. I've got to like lean against this so my dress doesn't fall on the ground. It's getting so heavy. The real ironing board would have been kind of handy for this. I like how the ruffle goes into the placket like that. It's pretty cool. What did I just see? Oh, okay. I saw a slit in my dress and I got a little panicky. It's just my pocket opening for my hand. That's okay. Maybe I should pull this over a little bit more. It's kind of getting off my fold edge there. Maybe I should have done a bigger seam allowance. Feeling like I'm pulling it away from my fold line there. I don't know why that is. I think the other side, oh, I know why. Because my interfacing probably shrank it up on this side. I see that kind of often. That's no bueno. You know what I mean? Yeah, this isn't okay with me here. I'm gonna fold it less over here. It was starting to torque a little bit, and that is not okay for me. I do not like the torquing. So let's flatten that out a bit. It'll all be worth it, right? The Bodice Placket. Why I always start kind of like I chunk it up a little bit, and then that way I only need to make sure it's okay between here and now. I just focus on this little spot here. Kind of controlled chaos, you know? So see how this is interfaced right here? Oh gosh, Melinda, we have that conversation before. The way I say torque, it always calls this to mind for folks. I don't know why. We were doing something that I had to say it a lot, and it just became a thing. So now every time I say it, that's what I hear too. Promise I'm not twerking over here. But you know, equally not okay with the twerking. So, you know, it fits. Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to work, Adina. The other side, I think, works better, too, because I aimed for plaid going down the middle, you know? I mean, that's plaid, but you know what I mean? Like, there's some intersections. This is the under placket, the left side. If it were the men, if it was men's, it would be the top placket. My placket's looking different widths in different areas, but this is because my interfacing here really has fixed this little 1-inch strip. Everything else is kind of fanning out from it. It's kind of relaxed. You can really see it in this upper area here. I'm gonna, I don't like the twerking or the torquing. Can you see this ruffling here? That's my bias. The bias is kind of becoming a nightmare. I should have interfaced the whole placket, but I have this thing against plackets being too boardy. I like them to feel more natural. Still have the stability they need for the buttons and buttonholes. Oh, I forgot. I have to do buttons and buttonholes on this. But also to have the I like it being natural. That's why I don't use fusible interfacing very often, and I probably shouldn't on this. I should have just used fabric. Okay, I'm gonna leave this open so I can sew those areas. The reason that women's clothes button the opposite of a man's garment is because way back when they were dressed by somebody, this is such a weird reasoning too, because not everybody was dressed, not everybody was noble, you know. It was easier to button them facing them. So in other words, if you were buttoning a man in his shirt, it is supposedly the equivalent of buttoning yourself if you are a woman wearing a woman's shirt. I know that this is the reasoning, but I still have trouble believing it sometimes. Incidentally, zipper flies are not different. Zipper flies for men and women are the same. I had someone ask me in my stream if I could do a women's zipper fly, and it actually made me think. I was like, wait, am I sewing a men's zipper fly right now? I was like, no, there's only one. You do run across zipper flies being different, but it's really, really rare. It's that oddball pair of shorts in your wardrobe that the zipper fly is the opposite. This is bugging me right here. How about you guys? Okay, this one is better, and I'm thankful for that because this is the one that's going to show on top. Oh, I didn't iron the other one. You can button your shirt, put your buttons and buttonholes on however you want. There is no rule to it. It is just custom and tradition. In fact, I'm pretty sure Terry does hers. Look at that thing just bent. Terry does hers the same for all the shirts, men's or women's. Pretty sure it's Terry that does that. My daughter wears a lot of men's shirts, and I'll have to ask her if she notices that. Well, maybe she doesn't wear a lot of men's shirts. She wears a few of my husband's. Maybe that's all it is. Okay, this placket looks way better, thankfully. I don't know what's going on with the other one. Yeah, this one's so much better. Okay, good. This is the one I want to be better. Look at that. I planned that. No, he didn't plan that. You guys know most of what I do here is luck. All right, we are almost done with this dress, I promise. You guys are troopers. This was kind of an epic sew. You know, it's rare that I have a 4-part series. I can think of some for sure, you know, that did that. But if you would have told me it was going to turn into that, I wouldn't have believed it. I didn't think the cutting was going to be in two spots, but we did. I'm not that surprised by that. You know, we did a lot of pattern drafting. I pretty much redid the whole pattern to make it into this. I'm starting to get a little bit of that funniness on this side. A few more pins. I can't remember where I got this fabric. I feel like it was, I'm pretty sure it was Stone Mountain and Daughter, right? That's what I said the other day, right? It doesn't want to stay under because this top layer is so much tighter than the under layer. So yeah, I think that would be my lesson I would take away from this. Because of the bias placket, I would have probably done a fabric interfacing for the whole placket. Could do fusible for the whole thing. It just would make it kind of stiff, but it depends on your fabric, you know. I think it would be easier to deal with, wouldn't taken as long. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where I got it. See that little fold there? I don't want that to be different width. I rarely do this where I iron something after I've pinned it. I'm just going to give myself a little bit easier sewing time, hopefully. I don't usually have trouble with something like this, but with the bias and the kind of the funkiness I didn't prepare for. Time to give myself a little helping hand here. Because look at that, this is narrower than it is right here, and I'm trying to decide if that bugs, how much that bugs me. It obviously bugs me. It's the under placket, so it's not going to show. Doesn't mean it won't mentally, you know, tear me down. All right. Let's sew this baby. Home stretch. How many times have I said that? So let's look at, let's get a preview of how it's lining up now before it, you know, we have to forever hold our piece. So if I line up these seams here, what happens? Is it still lining up here? I think it is. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Okay, let's see if we get this lined up here. I'm just gonna let it dangle. So my skirts don't line up as well. This is how they're lining up. This is my face. Could I make it line up? Okay, plaid, plaid, plaid. And then right here, what happens? So, what could I do? So the cheater in me would like to take off the placket here and pull this to match. And then the good example in me wants to take the binding off here and trim it to fit. I mean, I don't have a line on this piece that I'm trying to stay lined up with, but that's I think I'm gonna do the cheater method here. I think it's faster, and for the amount that I need to line up, it's just not very much. You know, it's like 1/4 of an inch, not much. I think I can do it. The trick is the fact that the bias placket may end up helping or hurting. I'm actually not sure. When it's buttoned, it's not going to be buttoned all the way down to the hem. It's only going to be buttoned probably, you know, to like right here. So it could still do that. It could still pull and be uneven. That's a risk with every stitch, you know? It's just what happens. So it's better to do it when it's relaxed. That's why I kind of held it from the top to see what would happen. And it's kind of funny that it does match all the way down to there. Because I'll bet if I went bottom up, they would match as well, you know? It's like one of those mysterious things. We don't like mysteries though, do we? We like experiments. We don't like mysteries. So let's just take this out a little bit here. Okay, so if that's my seam. So I'm looking at the seam here. Now, I could even cheat further by matching the line, but see, these lines match right here. So I'm just gonna stick with that. I'm gonna just ignore the fact that this little line is wider on this side. And I think what I'm gonna do is commit to my seam allowance down here on this placket. Okay. And then I'm gonna commit to this one here. Like this. So annoying. This looks like it works. It's really annoying. Getting punchy. All right. So let's start with this seam here. Get rid of this thread here. Alrighty. Okay, that's better, but not by much. It's not that great. Hi, so whatnot. Welcome. My sleeves are not puffy. I just did a regular sleeve. However, I'm not sure how I did it will help you very much. I do talk about it a lot in the second cutting video, which is linked in the description, on how I went about it. But if you have a sleeve from another shirt that is more the style that you would like to use, I would compare the armholes of both of those shirts to each other and then adjust the sleeve that you want to fit your Sagebrush. Now, one thing I noticed, just so you know, and I keep meaning to tell you guys this today and I keep forgetting, one thing I noticed about this is when it's on my dress form, it fits beautifully, but it's kind of subtle and hard to tell, it does feel a little narrow across the shoulders. So because of that, it's pulling it in a little and making it very close around my armholes and my sleeves. So it looks on my dress form like this seam right here is hitting me in the perfect spot. But on me, my arm, because you don't have arms on a dress form, the arms fill it up a little bit. So I would definitely check the across shoulder measurement and like compare it to another shirt you might have, and then use a sleeve from something that you already have. That would be what I would say. All right, so I'm going to sew the bottom seam of this placket here. I've really hacked my sagebrushed bits, so I'm sorry that it's not a proper sew through, so whatnot. Put my corner there. Just round that a little bit. So now I find that these sometimes can be a little fiddly. And yeah, like this one, I didn't really nail that. I need to take that out. You need to kind of make sure that you're going to be able to enclose all this raw edge right here. That's why I didn't really cut that spot off at an angle. I only cut the corner off, which now, of course, that's not my corner. So let's see here. Let's pay attention better this time. What is this thread here? Okay. So if this is my fold line right here, I really need to fold it back on that fold line, just like that, so that it covers it up. There we go. That looks better. Sorry. I had to get it in the right spot. So let's see here. That's better. Because you always have this little fold back thing and you need to kind of get it in there. In fact, sometimes what I do is I don't fold this part back right here. I'll show you. And then you have some play in how that edge turns back. There's a lot of ways you can do plackets. So keep that folded edge open. Let's do it from this side. Keep this folded edge open. And I like doing it from this side better because I can nail my needle going right along the hem edge there. I have a lot of extra thread in here because I've taken that out a couple of times. I don't want it to get too tired. Thankfully, the bias won't get as tired because of it doesn't unravel. So now I have this edge that's not turned under permanently, but it means I can kind of tuck everything in there a little nicer. What you're looking for on your placket is a continuation of the line of your hem and a right angle. You know what I mean? That way, when it's overlapped and buttoned, it'll look good. So let's open this up. I think I'm going to do that there. That seems better. That looks pretty good. Okay. Let's do the top, and then we can finish our placket. Oh, did I iron that there? Wow. Oh yeah, I was gonna tell you guys that I watched that sewing report video on YouTube stuff. It was so good. I was really inspired by the way she did her video, and just in general, like just the videography, of course, but the because obviously she's using much better cameras, and just her videography is better. She's been doing this a while. She is no novice, and It's seeing her video is what made me go, okay, she can add timestamps. Why can't I? And that's what made me kind of pushed it there for me. But I don't know. There's something about her video that really inspired me. And I like that she was like, you know, all the sewing videos that are out there in the world. Why do I have all this thread right here? That doesn't suit me. So I had to figure out what my own niche was. And I thought, that's exactly right. You do got to figure out what your niche is. There's a lot of the same old out there. So that was smart. I don't know why I have all this thread right there, and I don't like that because you can actually see it. I don't want that in showing. What is that? Here, I gotta get rid of it. Is this a seam I sewed earlier? What the heck? There we go. Yeah, it just came out. Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck on your sagebrush. It's a cute top. Where's my other top edge here? All right. Fold it right on that fold edge there. I hate it when I do that. When I backstitch right there in the fold and it pulls it in. Do you guys see that? You can really see it if I do that. That's not it. Can you see the little like divot right here my backstitch creates? That is so lazy of me. I'm feeling a little lazy right now. I'm tired though. All right, let's sew our placket. All right, so fold that in there. Oh, I could have done a better job here. This annoys me. I knew the bias would be a little tricky, but I really want a right angle there. I have very little I'm turning under there. There we go. There we go. There we go. Stay, stay, stay. I'm gonna hold my tail. All right, set. All right, so now I'm kind of looking at torquing and stuff. Torquing, and I like to push my. I'm pushing my folded edge, kind of like I would do really wide binding. I think all binding has the danger to torque, but it's more apparent in wide binding. I see it on quilts and things, you know. I'm gonna kind of hold my whole placket straight and hope I don't get like a flare to it because of the binding. You know, I have these Tabitha Sewer buttons that would look so good on this, but I think I've used them for 2 other projects. So I don't think I have them anymore. I hope I have some buttons. You know, I want to finish. Can you see the flare happening? Not good. Okay. Come on. Alright, so I'm down here at the bottom. I open it up. This is kind of how I do a collar stand too. Open it up, then fold it back. Like that. I have a seam in my binding right here, which makes it look a little messy. Makes it look a little less accurate. Gotta love it. Alright. What is that? Now, do I stitch on the other side of the placket? I might want to. I probably should have. And you know, oh, that's not good right there. Ooh, but I'm getting a little tired, you guys. I don't think I can fix that right now. Oof. Oof. Doesn't look so good right there. Looks so better on the skirt. I do like these X's being right here. I was trying to get this one here to go like to these two and this here, but the bias just, you know, like I wanted that there as well. Ouch. Jeez. That hurt. So I think I would like a stitch along this edge here. And because of that, then I would probably do one big rectangle, kind of like I do on the collar stand. So because of that, I think I'm going to start somewhere like here, not at the top. This placket is definitely not going to look the same as the other one. That way my back stitch is not at the top where it attaches to the placket at the beginning. I'm going to get rid of this. Get rid of these pins. It's really hard to get your placket straight when it's biased. I could have probably set this up a lot better. Something told me in the back of my mind that I needed to do more, but I honestly just couldn't remember because I've done this before a bunch of times. And every time I get to the end, I'm like, ooh, I could have done this and this to prevent this from happening. And I just didn't think of it. I'm not as worried on this one because it's my under placket. All right, so we're getting close to the top, but this time I'm just going to turn the corner and go all the way down the fold edge. So I open it up. It's like I do on a collar stand and tuck it in there like that. Yeah, it's definitely stretched out along that seam. Or not stretched out, but the bias definitely did. You can see, look at my seams kind of rolling to the outer edge there. All right, because I'm doing it this way, it means my whole dress is gonna go under the head of my machine. It's a little awkward. This is how I do waistbands as well, but they're not on the bias usually. And then that way, I don't have the start stop at the center front of the waistband, which can give you problems. I'm gonna hide my start stop inside some, like the cream edge there. Across the bottom. Tuck all that in there. Turn my last couple feet. Get that in there. Ooh, you guys are troopers. You guys are all at work, aren't you, in meetings? I need to I need to come up with jokes to tell you guys while you're in these meetings so that you read my joke and start laughing in the middle of your meeting. I'm gonna sabotage you guys, you naughty people. I do it too, though. Literally watch streams while I'm working, but I'm not in a meeting, so. All right, so you see, now this is where my back stitch is gonna be, and even though it's kind of front and center on the skirt, because it's in the cream section, it's so hard to see there. See that? Kind of disappears. All right. So I think I'll put my edge stitch on here, but I'm gonna come back and fix this before I put my buttons on. And you see why I like doing the continuous stitch, you know, starting in the middle of somewhere and then going around that, because then now I'm gonna have a back tack right here, just like I already have one there, and thankfully it's cream thread, so it's not so noticeable. But it could look so much nicer and just not as heavy, especially on the underside, right? Like, fine, it looks okay on the outside, but on the underside, we know it's probably more noticeable. I just saw a fabric flaw on the middle of my placket. Where's that fabric flaw? Look at that. Can I get it out? I probably can. There we go. Ooh, I got it out. Yeah. That's the kind of fabric flaw you like. Okay. So yeah, you see my two back tacks are right there. It's no big deal, but that can end up being a big deal, you know. The linen kind of hides it. Cool. All right, so the last thing I have besides fixing that little couple bobbles on my placket is hems on my sleeves, which I'm gonna bind. My placket's a little funky. See, the bias is definitely, you know, you don't want to trifle with it if it's gonna be a problem. But it looks pretty cute. Looks pretty cute. Really, Derek? I'm glad to hear that. What do you like? Like, what kinds of things do you find the most, I don't know, helpful or fascinating or interesting? I find, like, technical stuff really interesting myself. And I think the way I learn, I won't even do something until I understand, not because I don't mind failing at all. I don't mind making mistakes. It's more that I have to understand the why sometimes before I can move forward, you know? And like even in video games, I will fail really badly a bunch of times, and my friends are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, does this work? Does this work? Can I go here? Do I fall off the map when I come here? And they're just like, oh my gosh, no, just go out there and get rid of people. I'm like, oh, but I need to understand some things first, you know? And it's like, same with learning anything. If I'm learning Illustrator or whatever, I have to understand, well, why do I do it this way? And I think that's why I explain certain things the way I explain them. You know? Alright, so I'm just going to bind my little sleeve hems, and I'm really trying to keep these loose because my sleeve is pretty close fitting. Okay, where's my other sleeve? There we go. I'll put it on the dress form before we go too. My throat is like really struggling today. I think I'm getting the beginnings of some allergies. And fall is starting to hit here. It's so nice. It's so cool at night. When it's cooler outside than in our house, it's like, ooh, things are changing. Look at that. I still had some binding left. We made it. We made it. All right. Derek, how did your singing thing go? Wasn't that this past Monday? Wait, I'm going to start a little bit further behind here. Wait, is this my back? This is my back. This is my front. This is my back. Okay. I don't want my start stop to be right in the front. Oh, that's cool, Derek. Yeah. Yeah, that shirt's such a great pattern. There's so much good stuff to learn on that kind of shirt, too. And I feel like no matter how many you sew of that style shirt, the Fairfield or the Archer or any kind of button-down shirt, you can get better and better at it. You know, like it's never not going to be a good thing to sew, you know? Oh yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of pressure in menswear sewing. I see that because I follow the hashtag men who sew, and I don't comment a lot on the posts. I find a lot of the folks, when I comment, I'm all about it. Like I'm like, I think it's cool what anybody sews. And I like seeing what men sew, mainly because I want to see if there's things I can sew that they would like as well, or maybe a pattern my husband would like. And sometimes I'll join in the discussion, and I don't feel that welcome there, so I don't join in a whole lot, and that's totally cool. You know, maybe it's men's only. I don't know. And but the one thing I notice very common is that kind of feeling. I do feel like there's a lot of pressure to make your shirt perfectly tailored. But in all reality, the kinds of shirts most guys are wearing and buying, they are not tailored, right? I mean, like, think of a Hawaiian shirt or a camp shirt or, you know, anything casual. And guys wear a button-down shirt. Well, my guy does. He pretty much either wears a t-shirt or a button-down shirt, right? It's like the only, he doesn't wear polos. He's not a polo fan. And so that's too much pressure. I think you should just make a shirt if you want to, you know? You can't make a perfectly tailored shirt for your first one. That's too much pressure, and it'd be really hard to do that, I think. I couldn't. There's a lot of amazing tailoring techniques, too, that you can employ, but you don't have to, you know? My Archers are some of the most worn shirts in the winter time. They are not perfectly tailored. I say you tackle just one aspect of that if you want that kind of look. You just say, okay, on this one, I'm only going to do the collar. Perfectly tailored collar, you know, and then do all the little tips and tricks and stuff. Wow. That is so cool, Derek. From Cyprus, Portugal. Wow. That is really cool. It started after the lockdown, or was it already going and then more people were able to join because they had the time? It's pretty neat. I was just joking with my husband last night. I was like, you know, all these people have done some like amazing things during lockdown, but my life has kind of gone on normal. Not to mention, we moved, and we moved to a fire-prone area, so there was this added layer, right? So I have not had extra time during everybody's lockdown because I didn't lock down. Whoa, 76 singers? That's so neat. So what time do you guys do your sing-along that appeals to so many time zones? Because I hate leaving out a lot of the folks in time zones that can't make it. This my, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Come here, Baramy. Sometimes I'm like, dang, she's so short. And I'm like, wow, she's literally at the height you are. I'm going to give you the full effect here. Okay, the bias placket's a pain in the butt. There we go. Okay. Why is this so big around the waist now? Oh, I wonder if the binding stretched it out. So overexposed. So it turned out pretty cute though. I don't have it pinned down here yet. The waist got a little stretched out since when I pinned it on the form. Maybe not. I don't think it needs the top stitching though. It actually is okay. There's my pockets. I think that turned out pretty good. Yeah. This is not the right pin for this. There we go. Cool. Yay. That's my height. It's so loose through the waist now. That's so weird. Huh. That is so weird. I'm wondering, I don't think my bias would have stretched it out. The back looks pretty good, but you know, this right here, this is on the bias, this piece right here. And I can see it stretching out. You see that? So I may need to work on that. This side looks better. It's just this one. Maybe if I iron it, it'll calm down or wash it. But the plaid's matching. I wish I had more fullness right here. But I'm happy. Hey Sherry, how's it going? Monday evening. Oh, so it's Tuesday morning for the New Zealand singers. The Borders Big Sing. That's so cool. Thanks, Derek. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'll try it on after the stream. But can you see that? Wait, let me put it at the angle. Yeah, can you kind of see that's bubbling out right here? My dingy ironing board back there. You see that? Because the bodices, you can see the angle of the plaid, right? Everything else is not. See, this is all like right angles here. But that's not. This side's calmer. I like the way the back looks a lot. I wish I had put fullness here, but I couldn't have kept that on the fold if I'd done that. Yay! The binding hem looks pretty cute. Oh, can you guys see that? Yeah. Ooh, nice, Penny. You made a birthday cake? Is it your birthday? You're not making your own birthday cake, right? Them's fighting words. Yeah, this is pretty cute. When I'm wearing this, this is a little high on me. It could have probably been right here. It looks good on the dress form, but on me, so you can see, I doubt So Whatnot's here still, but can you see, here is my shoulder. So when it was on the form, it was fine when we were draping it, but you know, things happen, things get sewn, cut, whatever. You can see my arm poking out here. Can you see that? So this is pretty narrow across the shoulders. Now, it won't matter if you're doing the puffy sleeve. So that kind of thing won't get caught in something like that. My sleeve, look how balanced my sleeve is. That's some pretty good. Oh, your husband, he's turned 50? Oh, nice. Good for him. 50 seems fun. I'm almost there. All right, you guys. Well, I'm pretty happy with this. It turned out pretty good. You know, when you only get to make one, you know, like when you don't get to make 5 to perfect it, this turned out pretty good, considering. So I'll see you tomorrow for the Alcott dress, which is knits. Hoping my serger is gonna, you know, do good. It has some really interesting sewing details. I'll be cutting it tomorrow and sewing it on Saturday, and I'm going to try and sew the whole thing. I'm hoping that's not too ambitious. Maybe I'll even look at the directions. We might be able to start a little sewing tomorrow. I'm trying to do one garment a week this whole month for 3 weeks. And only 2 streams. Usually I do 3. Usually I do sewing part 1 and part 2, but I still need time for creating videos right now. So, and I'm going to have a sample sale next month, so I need to prepare for that too. Cool. All right. Well, thanks you guys. That was a pretty epic project. So I really appreciate you guys hanging in there. And I will see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, for the Cashmere Alcott, sponsored by Hearts Fabric. So that'll be fun. So I will see you guys then. Bye.